Hello, you spicy enchiladas. Welcome back to Mick. My name is, of course, Jack, the snack that smiles back, and here are today's stories for you all. Thank you, as always, for stopping by to say hello, and remember, if you don't like this video, I will be taking one of your kidneys. That's not a threat, kids. That's a promise. Okay, let's go. My pregnant daughter is threatening to cut contact with me if I don't give her boyfriend an allowance. I am a 43-year-old male, and my daughter is Jen, a 16-year-old female. I have two younger children as well, who are 13 and 12, male and female. 5 months ago, Jen got pregnant with her boyfriend, Chris, 17-year-old male, their baby. This made things tense between us for obvious reasons, but I have continued to support her. Chris's parents kicked him out 2 months ago due to the pregnancy, and I allowed him to stay with us. Chris is a good kid, but he is incredibly irresponsible, and he's been unable to hold down a job. He doesn't have any money, and he and Jen recently approached me to ask if I could start giving him an allowance so he could buy things that he wanted. To make things clear, I buy everything Chris needs. I buy the food, and I've bought the baby equipment and paid for everything Jen needs, not to mention my younger two kids, plus the pets. I don't exactly have enough money to be shilling $25 out to Chris. And I told them this. Jen lost her temper with me and we got into an argument. I, admittedly, told her that she was acting like a brat, and she told me that if I didn't give Chris an allowance, that she was going to do everything in her legal power to cut contact with me and make it so that I never get to see her or my grandchild ever again. Jen is a very determined and persistent kid, and I know that she would and will do everything in her power to do as she says, and I don't want that. But I'm not going to pay her boyfriend an allowance. Ignoring the clearly chaoticness of this daughter, would you say that he's justified to refuse it? I mean, it's his money, his choice, his income after all, but this is sort of a long-term investment towards ensuring the best possible future for this grandchild. Obviously, these two are still kids. There is no way you can really trustfully rely on them to take good care of this kid, and so in a way, you, as this father, really have the power and I guess thus the responsibility to make sure this child gets the best possible future. But that said, this comment does highlight a good point. I watched my sister do this to my parents. If you don't do X, you'll never see your grandkids again. My parents gave in. She is now a 50-year-old grandma still living with my parents. Please don't set yourself up for a lifetime of blackmail. It is heartbreaking to watch innocent kids be pawns in their selfish games. And I mean, hey, that's also very true. She is clearly just using the child as a bargaining tool, not so much trying to think about the child. There's some good advice out there, though, encouraging to calm down the rhetoric and be firm about not supporting Chris any more than you already are. After all, your daughter is a pregnant and hormonal teenager, and it's not surprising that she would be acting out. You need to calm things down right now, not heat them up. I'd like to hope there's maybe a middle ground you can work on here. Maybe offer some incentive towards paying a little bit extra to his salary if he gets a job that he can hold. I mean, you can argue that this is all on Chris. He needs to just get off his butt, be a responsible parent that he is now. But realistically, in the present, he's currently not that yet. He doesn't have the tools to achieve that yet. And I think you, as the actual father figure in this current situation, needs to unfortunately step up and take this on the chin. I don't know, I might be a bit nihilistic about this, so let me know what you think down below. Next story is equally a mistake as having kids, but a bit less traumatic, depending on how you approach it. Today I fricked up by telling a customer I wanted to be his pet. I'm a cashier at PetSmart. I like talking to people about their pets and etc. So, I've noticed this customer before. He's been coming to the store about once a week for almost a year now. He's not really handsome or cute in the traditional sense, but I can tell he carries himself with confidence, always polite, is kinda built, thank the Lord for tank tops, and rides a sweet motorcycle. Needless to say, I have a crush on him a bit. Anyways, I was ringing him up, but this time he had 2 carts full of cat toys, wet food, and treats. I mentioned I haven't seen him in a few months, and he told me his kitten had passed away from FIP. So I asked if all this stuff was for a donation or charity thing, He says no, they're for his 2 naughty kittens he just rescued from a shelter. Here's where I fricked up. Without thinking, I said, I wish I was your naughty kitten so I can be bad and still get treats and toys. He was at the pin pad looking down, going through the payment process, and he kind of stopped for a second. That's when it set in and I realized what I said and how it might have sounded. Fumbling like an idiot to try and explain myself, I then said, no, what I meant was I wanted to be one of your kids. Realizing that also wasn't a good explanation, I kept babbling on and digging a deeper hole. He just laughed and tells me it's okay. He understood what I meant, and that was the first time someone has asked to be his pet. I apologized again before he left, and he was still really cool and calm about it. Now, to be fair, this could not be a total frick-up just yet. If you see him the next day or so and he's looking at the bigger collars in the dog aisle, well, you may be onto something. On a serious note, though, how many times do you reckon people working at a PetSmart have come across people with, furry fetishes and stuff, just buying treats that they know that those people are going to use in some sort of kinky way. Back to the AITA stories, though. Am I the a-hole for putting a Ziploc bag of my roommate's poop on his bed after he pooped in the Bday?
What?
I know this sounds bad, but hear me out.
Oh, nah, man, you're totally fine.
I'm in university and have been living in a house with 4 of my friends, all around the 20s, for 4 years. We are all great friends and get along well most of the time. However, our one roommate, Darren, change the names, is quite messy. Darren regularly runs a tornado through the house after it's just been cleaned and leaves rotting food everywhere. Now, we share the bathroom upstairs, and he never cleans it. He also does stupid things while intoxicated and doesn't take responsibility. Last year, he threw out a perfectly good blender because he got so high that he forgot to plug it in before turning it on and therefore thought it was broken. When we called out on this behavior, Darren usually would deny it or make excuses. He used to not be so bad, but this irresponsible behavior has escalated over the past year. Yesterday, however, that's where I drew the line. On Thursday night, Darren had a couple friends over, and they got wasted. The rest of my roommates weren't home. I had to get up at 6 a.m. for work, so I asked them to keep it down. They didn't, but I managed to fall asleep despite the noise. Sometime in the night, though, I woke up to them talking near my room. I heard Darren say something about him pooping in the Bday. My bedroom is beside the washroom, but I was half asleep and figured I heard wrong. I just fell back to sleep. On Friday morning, I woke up for work and there was a turd in the Bday. I wasn't about to clean it, especially not at 6 a.m. I thought maybe he was just incredibly intoxicated and he'd clean it when he woke up. But when I got back to my house around 7 p.m. though, the turd was still in the Bday. I knew Darren was home because I could hear him gaming in his room. Also, the shower had clearly been used, meaning he showered with his turd in the Bday. I knew he was going to leave soon, and when he did, I put on some gloves, put his poop in a bag, and put it on his pillow. When he got home later that night, he was really upset and yelling about how gross it was that I put poop on his pillow. I told him it was gross of him to not only poop in our Bday, but to leave it for a whole day. I also argued that I could have put the poop directly on his pillow, but I didn't. Well, he says that he would have cleaned it up eventually, and that I should have texted him first. He put the bag of turd in the Bday, again, just to prove a point, and now we're at a crossroads. It's sitting in the Bday as I type this, and he says that if I don't apologize, he'll put it in my bed. 2 of our roommates and my girlfriend are on my side and say that he had it coming, and he shouldn't have been such a pig. My other 2 roommates think I took it too far and should have texted him to clean up his poop first, which makes me think I could be the a-hole, but I think he should have just done it on his own. I'm not his mother. Now, to be fair, sounds like no one was really. Yeah, all things considered, am I the a-hole? People say everyone sucks here. Realistically, you live with the dude. You need to ask him to clean it before doing this. Yes, he is an adult. Yes, he should be able to see that was stupid and gross. However, you responded with stupid and gross instead of speaking to him like a human. It doesn't matter that someone did something weird or icky, we still need to attempt to get along with our roommates. Ooh, Natar. He needs to be ashamed for this. I would end the crossroads by taking a picture and threatening to post it to social media. Like, putting the turd back into the bidet after already having left it there all day. The bro is fricked. So I'm personally on the everyone sucks here side of the table here, but in a very unashamed way. Like, you should be proud of how petty you've been in this scenario. Sometimes you really have to just play dirty to communicate thoroughly with some people. But I mean, yeah, look, despite using a Ziploc bag to ensure no actual biohazards were made, you still had clearly other avenues, more, I guess, respectable avenues to pursue in terms of dealing with this issue. So does it really help that you've merely just enraged him rather than educated him? You can argue it's not exactly a smart choice, similar to being someone who says this in front of their girlfriend. Am I the a-hole for telling a guy, girls are like buses, there's another one coming? So, a little backstory, my now ex-girlfriend, spoilers, made some online friends and we were meeting them at a local brewery. We all sat and chatted for probably 2 hours. During this time, one guy shared a story about how a girl he really thought he clicked with and how she had ended up ghosting him. Now, as a male in modern times, I'm familiar with how the dating world works, so I said to him, don't worry too much, girls are like buses. If you miss one, there's another one coming. I felt it was well received among the guy I said it to, as well as the other males in the group. On the drive home, my girlfriend told me how disgusting I was and how the females in the group, they thought I was an a-hole for saying something so misogynistic. I tried to explain that I'd say the same thing to my hypothetical teenage daughter about a boy, but she wasn't having it. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole here for defending what I said? People's thoughts. In my experience, guys who think like this do not end up, catching many buses. Or at least they don't stay on them for long. I know it's meant to be like, there's plenty more fish in the sea, but plenty of more fish tends to imply, hey, there are others out there for you, while women are like buses comes off more like, women are all interchangeable objects, and tends to be used most by people who think like that. Oh, not the a-hole. You were trying to be supportive, but definitely a wrong place, wrong time sort of conversation. That's not something you say in front of your girlfriend. It probably made her feel very replaceable. Yeah, okay, just because other guys accept your schmexist, dehumanizing advice doesn't make it okay. You're the a-hole. Yeah, you screwed the pooch there when you assumed that just because your male friends were okay with how you criticized women in general, that it meant that it was okay to say in the first place. But that said, I'm gonna stand around Natar purely on the assumption that you were someone who said this in just a desperate attempt to try and support a fellow man, and not so much because you actually think this way. Because reality is, if this is part of your subconscious mindset, there's no way you can properly invest into a relationship with genuine effort. Yeah, you can argue that you have the same mindset towards advice for your own daughter, as in that it's not really about the gender, but just about the whole strategy of dating. But again, it shouldn't really be a problem so much as to the gender you're criticizing, but just the mentality you're having regarding to dating in general. You gotta put yourself first, but not always yourself first. I feel like this next story projects that quite well, despite its rather, I guess, conflicting mindset, depending on how you stand. My tale of an attempted baby trap. If it's ever happened to you, I'd like to hear yours. I'm in my 30s now, but this happened when I was a trusting, young, 20-year-old girl. I was dating one of those men who got way too attached, like way too quickly. He was 10 years older than me, red flag, and after a couple of months, he moved some belongings into my apartment, unprompted, and I guess decided he was going to live with me with no discussion. He talked all the time about how he could never have kids because he was infertile. He had been tested for it and everything. I believed him. I hated the side effects from my birth control and was psyched to get a break. A month goes by and I faint on a boat dock and fall into the water. What? I've never passed out before. A few Walgreens pregnancy tests later, and guess who's pregante? I say nothing to this dude about it. Make my appointment, get my little pills, and have a nice, easy fetus deletus at my mom's house. Dodging them demonetizing words Matrix style. A couple days later, I invite Mr. Baby Trapper to the Waffle House. Public, hoping for no scene. I inform him that I know he lied about being infertile, and I had yeeted the that doesn't work. This man proceeds to stand up in the crowded Waffle House and yell that I have killed his baby and his only miracle chance at having children. Then recites, standing and loud, a few entries from my journal that he thought may embarrass me. Mind you, he still lived at my house. I pay the $600 to terminate my lease without telling him, move all my things out with my male relatives, and leave him there with his things. Quit my job and moved across the state. Scorched earth. Never heard from him again. You ever have experiences with relationships or people in your past and you just think, God damn, am I thankful I dealt with that then and not later in life? Honestly, I feel pity on this guy. For him to be in his 30s but treat a relationship as the gospel only a few months in, and to react so emotionally immature when he gets news from his partner like this. But let's step aside from the fact that this guy's an obvious nutjob. There are cases out there of people who are told they are infertile, tests and everything, only to end up being fertile. Are you certain this man was definitely trying to be a baby trapper? Honestly, the fact that that's a thing is, that's scary. Now, in regards to the choice she's made here, personally, I believe that as a man, if you don't want anyone messing with your baby, don't give him your baby powder. Like, that's as far as you get to choose what happens to the thing. But also, yes, he saw you clearly as the apple of his eye, an absolute gospel of beauty and the one to be with, and he suddenly gets told that you yeeted the deleted feet, the thingy. You did the thingy! But based on this man's actions, I don't want to be too sorry for him. Where do you stand, though? Leave your thoughts for me down below. Back to an AITA, though. Am I the a-hole for refusing to get my fiance a birthday present? Now, my future mother-in-law decided that she was going to plan a vacation with her family, which included her husband, father-in-law, my fiance, and his 2 sons. My 2 kids and I were not invited, not even if I paid for myself and my kids. She planned this day, or this 5-day vacation, during my fiance's birthday. So, not only were my kids not invited, but he won't even be spending his birthday with us too. He doesn't like that we aren't invited, but he's not turning down a free vacation either. Well, what he thought was free. After she invited him and his boys and made all the plans and purchased tickets, she told him she'd pay for their accommodations, but he had to help pay for everything else. Oh, so he refused it then, right? Right? He barely makes enough money to cover his own bills and his part of our shared bills, mortgage and utilities. Usually, I make up the difference. So, he asks if he can get money as a present for his birthday from me and my kids. I told him if he can't even spend his birthday with us by going up to the vacation site later, then I wouldn't be getting him anything from me and the kids. He said that wasn't fair, and I told him it wasn't fair that we were being excluded from his family vacation. So am I the a-hole for not getting him anything for his birthday? Some thoughts? I would not marry a man who condoned this behavior from his mother. I would not marry a man who is, in effect, telling his sons that your sons are not family. I would not marry this man, not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. His mom is the a-hole for excluding you and your kids. He is the a-hole for not standing up to his mom about her behavior, but you are the a-hole for trying to tie his birthday gift to his mother's bad behavior. Ooh, you're the a-hole for how you handled it. You were petty and punishing him for how his mother is acting. Also, if you were getting married, maybe she wanted a final vacation with him. He's a little bit the a-hole for expecting money and a gift and for agreeing knowing that he can't afford it. Yeah, I was ready to argue the whole issue where people in a family should be able to go on a vacation despite someone else in the family not being able to fully afford it themselves, but you can afford it. Like, it is so obvious that she is just trying to exclude you. That said, I don't know if it's completely fair to be punishing your husband based on his mother's actions, but I also agree with the fact that you are really just reacting to his lack of a spine. We can theorize why the husband might be okay with letting the mum get away with this due to some, fortune he's hoping to take part in the future, but that is just making some random assumptions. Perfect next story segue. Am I the a-hole for expecting my stepdaughter to cover the costs of items broken under her care? My actual daughter, Willow, is a good girl, but she's very energetic. Oh no. Actual daughter. There, whoa, can you tell where this is going, Cinderella? And unless she is with somebody who can pay attention, things can go wrong. My stepdaughter, Ashley, is well aware of this as she usually looks after her on weekends while her father and I are out, which is why I think it's fair for her to take responsibility for anything that does go wrong under her care. Now, I recently purchased a beautiful sculpture, something I had my eye on for a while, a unique piece that held a lot of meaning to me. Ashley was reminded to take care and make sure nothing happened to it. And to cut a long story short, Ashley was too busy watching Netflix to watch over Willow, which resulted in it being completely destroyed. While I'm not hurting for money, this was a one-of-a-kind sculpture, and I don't think it's fair for Ashley to stand by and let it be ruined and walk away unscathed. Ashley has a part-time job and more than enough money to buy herself clothing, makeup, junk food, and a number of other things, so I don't think that this is an unreasonable request. But her mother went ballistic after she found out that her father and I expected her to save up to cover the cost of the item. Now, I don't personally see the problem here, but a few family friends have gotten involved, and the situation has gotten rather messy. Am I being unfair here? AITA? Edit, for everyone asking, Willow is 6, Ashley is 17. Oh, Natar, I don't like the term actual daughter, but she was responsible for your daughter and while babysitting. She wasn't paying attention and was too busy watching Netflix, so she wasn't doing her job that she was or was not being paid for. No a-holes here. There's a simple solution here. Simply deduct money for replacing the sculpture out of the money you pay Ashley for babysitting your kid until the statue was all paid off. Easy! There are a lot of stepmothers on Reddit today. Oof, Yatar. If you don't like the way she babysits your daughter, then parent your own child. And my favorite little mic drop. And what do you want to bet that they don't pay the stepdaughter for babysitting? Because she's enough of a sister to not be an actual babysitter who needs to be paid, but not enough of an actual daughter to be treated well. Now, how much do you also want to bet that this is the only real time that she's over with them, on the weekends to visit her father, and they immediately put her on babysitting duty? Like, she's there for her own father, not for your own child, Miss Stepmom, you bitch. Okay, sure, your family, you help each other out when you need it, but volunteering isn't the same as expected labor. But of course, we're not really here to judge your parental responsibilities, just how you go about dealing with broken furniture. To which I actually say, Yatar, of course Yatar, why the hell would I say otherwise? Next story. Am I the a-hole for rudely telling my mother-in-law the reason why I won't give my son my husband's last name? Get ready for a wild ride. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old son. I've been with my husband for 3 years. His family is a big, proud family of law enforcement officers, and my husband is one of those himself. They love my son as their own, but mother-in-law repeatedly asks about the possibility of giving him the family's name, as in changing his last name, which belongs to my late husband's, and then lists the reasons why I should consider it. I gave no clear answers in hopes that she'd drop it. My husband was working when me and my son visited his family last weekend. Mother-in-law asked again when I will finally give my son the family's name. I felt annoyed as I said I needed time to think about it to get her off my back. But the brother-in-law chimed in, saying that I should feel honored and not even take time to think about it because his family's name and reputation are well known among others. Mother-in-law said, by not considering it, I'm creating distance between them and my son and preventing them from being under a family under one name. I was mad. I said I wasn't going to do that anytime soon and will wait until my son's old enough to decide. I added that I didn't feel it's right to make this decision on my son's behalf, no matter how much this step family loved him. He already has a father that gave him a respectful last name, and so this would be enough. Period. Brother-in-law and his cousin chuckled, sarcastically. Mother-in-law and the sister-in-law said I was a hypocrite for expecting them to treat my son as their own, and yet refused to let them give him their last name. I responded that they're the ones letting a name dictate the kind of relationship they have with my son. I don't understand why it's so important to have my son have their last name, like it's supposed to complete him or something. Mother-in-law still argued about it after I said this was between me and my husband and didn't stop, so I left during dinner and then got a text from mother-in-law thanking me for rudely telling her that her family's name isn't good enough for me and my son. She said it's my decision to keep my son's last name, but should no longer expect them to treat him as if they are his family, after I made it abundantly clear that they are not. Is this mother-in-law a vampire? Because I don't think she's ever seen herself in a mirror. Mother-in-law emptied the room she had for when my son visits, and the sister-in-law sent her husband to get back the gifts she gave to my son, and made up an excuse for it. I was hurt and consulted with my mum, who said I should show my in-laws compliance if I wanted benefits for me and my son's future since, well, they have potentials and are well off. My son's current last name is useless at this point, according to her. My husband is conflicted. One minute, he's saying his mum kind of has a point. The next, he's on the phone yelling at her to stop it, but still thought being rude was not the way. Did I go too far? Was I the a-hole? I told my husband I won't be visiting anymore, although he said he could tell them to apologize and drop it, but I feel like this is too big for an apology to fix, even if I seemed rude. So people's thoughts, and yes, these are some people's thoughts. You are the a-hole, as if the name and connection with your true family really does benefit your son, then you are being a prideful, selfish parent. We live in a capitalist, competitive society where nepotism is the norm in a lot of places, and if you wanted your son to have the best life, you would give him that name. Oh, Natar, so if your in-laws had a daughter, and she got married and changed her surname, they would no longer consider her family?
Oh, snap!
So on the note of nepotism, look, I work in the entertainment industry area of life. I definitely can vouch for the fact that that is such a thing, but it also only gets you so far. And even then, where's this surname gonna get them exactly? What, in law enforcement? What if they don't want to be in law enforcement? That is just pointless! If your family actually treated you like family, it wouldn't matter what your last name is, because they'd still be like, oh, you're part of that family. Yes, well, here's your nepotism. Here you go. Like, I'm pretty sure mates rates aren't specifically bound by literal blood. This definitely sounds like a case of really toxic pride on the mother-in-law's side. But with that said, that is where I'm gonna end today's video. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you had some fun. Remember to like this video, otherwise I will be taking that kidney. And once again, leave your little thoughts down below for me to have a perusal of. I love to read them as I'm on the toilet in the mornings. Now, while you have that thought invading your headspace, have a good one. My name's been Jack. It's been a pleasure rambling with you, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.